When the body hits a certain frequency, the spirit leaves. It pops out. We know that the spirit ascends. There's so many different kinds of passing. I've been shown in accidents that most people did not do what the body went through. They were observing. They were being held by another loved one up there. It's okay. It's okay. And a lot of times the first things they say is, but what about my mom? Or what about my spouse? Like you get concerned about them.
Hello, welcome to Healing Millions podcast. Today I have a very special guest, Beth Lynch, who is a medium, who is going to talk about mediumship and how we can connect with our loved ones who crossed over. In today's episode, you are going to explore signs loved ones use to connect with us, how we can heal after losing them, and how we can reconnect with them to receive messages they have for us. Beth, thank you so much for being here on my podcast. I'm so excited about this interview. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, thank you. Beth, so many people have misconceptions about mediumship. Can we immediately demystify what mediumship is and what is not?
What I have come to understand or feel comfortable with is to look at mediumship as a very natural part of our journey as a human being, where our spiritual energy or our spirit is really, kind of leading the way. And I look at the word mediumship as mediators between what is spirit, what is physical. And when I found that term, or that term was maybe revealed to me from the powers that be, is when I actually was able to say I am a medium, because it was intimidating, scary, and my own healing journey was still, it still is. It never really ends. So yeah, that's the term I find to be very demystifying. It's a natural connection.
Thank you so much for that clarification. You were special as a child. You could feel things around you, even when everybody says there's nothing there. Can you take us back to that moment when you were a child and start sensing things around you that sometimes made you scared?
Yeah. I can remember, I think far back as maybe being 6 or 7, where I used to see this figure hovering over me, always in nighttime, and I would call him the mean man. And he was our very kind of traditional look of not of what I would say maybe the devil, with lack of a better word. Um, and he'd hover over me. But what was interesting was how I would feel right before he came. And it would literally be, because I'd always be in bed, and my toes would like almost, it was electrical. I didn't understand that at the time. And now I would really equate it with anxiety. And what it was is, and then he would hover. And as, being raised Catholic, I had to know the Our Father, backwards. And so that would be my go-to prayer. And by the third one, he'd always disappear. And I did not understand that for a long time. Well into my 30s, I would see him until one day I understood. And we were going to get into that kind of the scarier things too, in a little bit, but he would always go away. And that's all where the science comes in, where the energy and frequencies. I didn't realize I was raising my frequency at, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old at the time. I didn't know those terms, especially. Yeah. So you learn. I always knew I could feel safe after that third prayer. And then just over feeling things. I was told often I was over emotional. Sometimes I still am. But I understand those emotions now, and that sensitivity, and, feeling other people, and why feeling overwhelmed. So, it's a very natural thing. And we need to understand that to understand our own emotional responses to any situation we're going through.
Thank you so much. Uh, Before your mother died, you knew somehow that she's going to die. And that also put you on a path to discover your mediumship abilities, and that put you on the path to become a medium. Can you share a little bit about that, please?
Yes. I did not know prior to her passing. What happened was I dreamt that I woke up from a dream at 3:15 a.m. on September 22nd, 1993, dreaming that I was hearing over an intercom system that she had died. And the dream, I could see gray walls and people running back and forth. And I woke up and I was in the dream crying and shaking. And when I woke up, I was literally like, doing that. And I looked at the digital clock and 3:15, I can still see it. And I went, what kind of dream was that? And oddly, I went back to sleep. And when I woke up in the morning, I had my little nephew that day and I was getting him ready for daycare and, uh, you know, yeah, doing my thing, got in the car, turned on the radio, and the radio, it said that the Amtrak train had crashed in the middle of the night. And I was like, my dream. So it was definitely the catalyst to me saying, I need to understand death. Where are they? Grief. My traditional faith was definitely not holding it up for me at that point. Why God? Why we blame, we give credit there and we blame there too. So we have to understand that's not they're not being taken. That's where I understand. Nobody's. So then that was where I went to a medium a year later. And she looked right at me and said, you're not using your gifts and abilities, young lady. Your mother in spirit's telling me you're going to do what I do and help many people someday. And I'm sitting there going, okay, lady, you're crazy in my head. But and that was the first words out of her mouth. And yeah, that was, she said, your mother will guide you to your books and teachers, but you will have to choose the path. I was a hairdresser then, 20 something years. I was very comfortable in my lane. What are you doing messing with me? I'm thinking, I just want to understand where my mom and dad are. But that was the week later, I was taking classes and learning meditation, and it progressed into really feeling the sensitivity as a strength and a sacred part of our journey.
You work with many spirits, and people usually want to know, do spirits prepare us before their departure?
Before
And
our own departure.
their own, like before they pass away, how they prepare us for, during this grieving periods, how does it look like? Is the spirit always with us? And when does spirit leave and move on?
What I have come to experience in 30 years of doing this on purpose and many years not understanding what was happening to me. But first of all, when we're supported by spirit, the more connected we are into our own spiritual nature is where we really get to feel that peace and that inner strength and that support energy, because they are in spirit form. They are in higher frequency. You can call it heaven, the light, the other side, the seventh dimension. There's so many terms nowadays. I'm very traditional with my terms. I'm very comfortable with the light or heaven or spirit world. And so, but their frequency is much higher. So the more you understand your own energy field, your own spiritual system, and that's not complicated, it really isn't, is when you feel that support that is above and beyond what you could humanly experience or go through. That's when we feel that support. And as far as the second part of your question, when do they leave? I have worked with some people for 30 years in channeling, just maybe once a year or the anniversary of a passing or a birthday or something. They want to continue talking, have that intimate conversation with them that they just don't feel they can do on their own all the way. And people should always evolve. And I'm very big on saying that, giving you the tools to believe you can feel them, all the signs that come, you can communicate with them. So when when you honor, the natural connection we have, they never really go. There's definitely levels of learning, just like on Earth. I do see that. I know when my dad was in cross one time, my sister, myself, and my grandma, who was his mom, because he passed very young too of a heart attack. And one week we all had the same dream where he came to us and said, you may not feel me as close, but I'm just going to go learn something. But I'm still there. You know, it's in other words, if we send a thought and we're praying to them, they get the ding. I call it we think we're so advanced with our notifications on social media. Oh no, that's from a divine intelligence that some people were allowed in and said, we're going to make this happen down here. I don't think they realized where it really came from. But yeah, so they don't really leave, but there's definitely places and times where they may want to learn more.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Which is comforting. It's comforting to know that, you
Yeah,
know?
it's good to know that my grandmother didn't leave me.
Yeah. Do
She's
you have a
still
ring of your grandmother's? Right when you said that, the ring, I heard say the ring. Whose ring do you?
there has her ring.
Okay, so your mom is still living and yeah, so that would be just as soon as you see how fast we're not on here alone. I've always say there's an audience, you know, and it would be those that would want to use me as that little say that so she knows I'm here.
Oh, yeah, thank you, Grandma. Are you tired of feeling exhausted, drained, and overwhelmed no matter how hard you try to keep it all together? You take care of everybody else, your friends, your family, always showing up for them. But who is taking care of you? What if you can go from overwhelmed to peaceful, from exhausted to energized in just 30 minutes a day? Imagine ending your day feeling calm, grounded, and actually excited to wake up in the morning. I invite you to join the Healing Millions community. Inside of a community, you will experience live healing sessions every single weekday, guided by 10 healer experts using proven methods like energy healing, emotional release, and tapping, so you can finally release the stress, sleep deeply, and wake up feeling excited and fully and joyfully alive again. Real humans, real support, right when you need them most. You don't have to do this alone anymore. Come, join us. Click the link below or scan the QR code to join us now. Because if not now, when? Your peace, your joy, your energy, they matter. You matter. Come and join us inside Healing Millions community. We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much. So many people think that connecting with spirit is something very special, very unique, and they really want to know how does it feel when spirit connects with you. Do you hear voices? Do you see images? Do you feel them? How does it look like for you?
I think when I didn't understand it, it was feeling completely. You know, that's why people use the word empathy. I'm so empathic. I'm like, change the way you look at your empathy. Your intuition runs through empathy. If you make it a curse, it has become a curse. If you make it a blessing, it's a superpower. And how you want to use it. And our life experiences are what going to do that for us. You know, imagine if they taught this in some way in kindergarten even, you know, there's ways children feel so much, and it's emotional to feel spirit, but it's a good emotion. I've cried with many families, like, not, you know, I don't lose my composure, but I mean, there's some channelings I do, especially in the case of losing children. I work with a lot of families that lose kids, and whew, you want to talk about emotion, but that emotion isn't negative. It isn't bad, but it's a feeling. So when I receive, it is definitely feeling, but visual, constant. Like I saw, say ring, and I saw the hand, you know, it's that fast. I don't ask whose hand is that. I don't even go there. You know what I mean? I know somebody wanted me to say that to you, and Rose as well. I don't know if it's the flower or the name, but I have to say it. And so it's emotional. I see, I smell, I taste, I get it all across the board. And I think that comes with, not that I was always trying to do that, it was just natural in the progression of my own evolution, of my own personal healing journey, and continuing to support that aspect of who I am as a spiritual and a human being. So now it's all senses. And it's fun to sit here and say, hmm, I taste a hot dog with extra mustard. I don't even eat hot dogs, really, very rarely. And someone say, well, that was my daughter knew I hated extra mustard, and she used to put it on her mustard, and she was in spirit, and you're talking to the dad. I mean, that's extremely powerful. It's a hot dog, you know what I mean, with mustard. Who would think that would have so much relevance? You don't You can't second guess your visions. And I teach that to people trying to develop and trust, you know.
That's a really good point. That also brings me to my next question. When people want to develop the intuition or start talking to people who crossed over, there are some blocks they have that preventing them from connecting with the other side. What are the most common blocks and how can people overcome blocks?
Well, that word is so crazy sometimes because first of all, grief is probably the lowest frequency we experience in our human journey, right? The lowest vibrational is that separation, and then how people pass has another level to it at times, There's not just natural passings, that you can prepare for. It's just not that way. And so grief has such a low vibration. You have to look it through the science. Spirit is a high frequency. All right. So if we're going to feel them, sense them, trust it's them, right? We have to tune into the frequency, the channel. And that's where the personal responsibility or responding to your higher abilities comes in. So grief will put a natural, almost low frequency around you, which creates the wall or the block from the higher frequency. It's like when you're trying to listen to a channel and that good song's on, you want to hear it so bad, and you're trying to tune in, you don't even realize that's what you're doing. So if you learn to understand that the only thing that really blocks is our own perspectives of the block that create the emotional frequencies, creating, I tell people it can either be a steel wall, it can be jello, or it can be a mist. And you got to allow it in grief. I tell people, some people will get a sign really fast in a passing. And sometimes people will say, I'm not getting signs, everyone else is, or why can you? And I said, grief will do that. Okay. Just like even trying. So I encourage people for the grief area to journal, like start a notebook or a journal where it's just letters to dad, for example. And all you put in that is thoughts that you want to say. Dad, I know today, da 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 da. And do you believe that happened to me? And then end it with thank you for listening. Even if you write, I hate that I have to communicate with you this way, but thank you for listening. That's not for dad. That's for you to shift the frequency around you. Faith that they hear you, even in times when you don't know if they do or are fearful that they don't. And that's just, when we're using it with death, but it's like anything else. When you journal, and I'm not the best, I know I'm like, oh, I love journaling. No, I really don't. But I have a notebook sitting right here where I do write thoughts down and ideas can come into more. Or I might even feel I wrote something like, that's not the way I would write it. That's the way my mom would say it. Mom, thank you. Your inner dialogue about grief and the blocks that you could have for not getting your own signs is very important. And it will shift things immediately.
Can everybody become a medium?
I think we all are a mediator of what is spirit and what is physical. And when we get to when people ask, well, I don't know what my purpose is. Your purpose, according to the spiritual world, what I have learned is to understand the relationship between spirit and self, however you want to do that, whatever faith you feel comfortable with, or is it the science where Nikola Tesla's quote will answer all those secrets? If you want to understand the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency, spirit being the highest frequency expression of consciousness as a human being. So we all are. It's just, what do you want to do with it? Do you want to do it to guide you in life? To know that's the best stock to invest in, or is this the, best career path for me at this time? Intuitively learn to, trust that you're mediating between something bigger. And if you want to take it into the next level of helping others, you have to trust yourself first. I didn't learn to be a medium. And I was very anti teaching people mediumship for many years until I saw the desire for people to want to understand mediumship and communication with spirit. And that's when I put together my little program that I teach. This is, whether you want to be a medium or not, this program helps you mediate between your own intuitive nature and your logical nature. and they need each other. They need each other, you know, because logic will take what you intuitively sense and put it into the physical world. And so, in a way, we all are, but then there's different levels of what you want to take it as, you know.
Thank you so much for the explanation. So many people want to connect with spirit and want to channel, but very often they're scared that some bad forces, bad energies will overtake their bodies and something bad is going to happen to them. What would you say about that?
Well, coming from one part of our conversation where I called him the mean man, he had a name. He did look mean, and he would just hover, and then he would disappear after the third Our Father. Um, when you open up or pray or do a blessing to be connected to the divine, there's no low frequencies that can really enter in a divine experience. They can't. And there are a few things that open up those low vibrational things to be closer to you. It always begins with your own consciousness. You have to take some kind of understanding with that to know so it actually releases the fear, you know, um, if you understand it. So when I came to understand spiritual energies and the other side and my own, experiences with my parents, and when I came to understand they were in the light, and yes, to see them, I would have tears running down my eyes, but it wasn't a bad emotion. When you come to understand how these entities actually, exist, they do exist. You'll learn to protect yourself in that way naturally, and it's not even a protection as much as it's just a peaceful trust that you get. Because when I told him, "Go away, I understand you now. You have to go to the light. You cannot come. I am blessed. I am safe." I've never seen him since. And I was 34 years old when that happened. I seen him for quite a long time. You can always do a blessing. I mean, I've done spiritual healings where I've seen what I would name a demonic looking being at the end of the table and literally say, "Leave." And what the experiences I've had is when people are dealing with addiction or addictive behavior, and some pharmaceutical use, you can see these. It's aspect of consciousness. You continue to hold the blessing and tell it to leave. I've watched them walk away. You don't see that. Well, I don't like people to get scared of it because it's nothing to be afraid of. Just claim your light, you know, because light will move darkness, will shine into darkness. And that vibration, they can't be in that vibration.
I think that's really important for people to know that they cannot do anything to you. What they're actually showing you is the fear or the vibration that you have right now.
Hmm.
And when the moment when you raise your vibration, they leave. And that's the most important thing during the reading or everything. You need to set the attention that only light comes, and you need to raise your vibration to receive messages.
Absolutely. That's exactly it.
Is there ever information from spirit that you choose not to share, and why?
When I receive something, and probably the straight up answer is no. I feel that when I really understood mediumship, that I would always say what I saw. If I see something might be a little abrupt for somebody, I say a little moment. I just kind of ask for higher guidance to understand how to bring it through. I've yet to see it not be able to be told, and what I've learned as far as teaching to understand this is, if you receive something that you really feel is, like when I'm teaching people to interpret their messages, and someone wants to say, "Well, I feel something so dark around you." You don't say it like that. You say it, maybe say, "I'm feeling some low vibrational energy." You have to be gentle. People, when they come to you, aren't coming because they're feeling strong and happy and in their best space, especially when you deal with grief, and there's some passings out there that are just beyond words. I mean, I have seen them. So I always feel, if you really trust intuitively you'll have the words. And, there's times I've said, now this may be a little difficult to hear, but I have to say as I see it. And I always find that the people on the receiving end, it has brought them either confirmation or understanding. I'm not telling them something they didn't know. And spirit really does, in a way, take over, I think, and guide the words. I really trust that. You as a medium, I like some people say, well, you know everything about me. I don't know. And I'm like, well, I can refer you to somebody and get a fresh third eye. I have no problem with that. But because I have people I've read from it, but I always tell people too in mediumship readings, I'm not reading you. I'm listening to what spirit is coming through and what spirits want to say hi. And there's always going to be there. In 30 years, if I had to worry if somebody was going to be there, I don't think I could do the work. It's just there's too much and need for comfort for the people coming to you in a mediumship reading.
Beautiful. There's something you said that I think is very important to emphasize. Very often we get messages from spirits, but we need to be very sensitive how we deliver those messages. I think it's very important that we say that because very often just because it's easy for us to understand and we see things differently, we need to be gentle to people who are going through really such a hard time. Because usually people come to medium because they want to hear messages from their loved ones who crossed over. And that also brings me to my next question is what really happens to spirit when somebody dies? What happens in that moment
To the spirits or our spirit?
for spirit in the body? What
Hmm.
happens in
Such
that
a good
exact
question.
moment? Yeah.
Yeah. And because there's so many different kinds of passings, um, like when I went through what I went through with my mom, to wake up at 3:15 a.m. hearing she was dead, literally it was that blunt, and see gray walls and people running back and forth. I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't even know she had died at that point, literally, logically. What I have experienced and learned along the way is when this so say in an accident, when the spirit leaves the body, when the body hits a certain frequency, the spirit leaves. It pops out. Okay, we know that the spirit ascends. Okay. So there's so many different kinds of passing. I've been shown in accidents that most people did not do what the body went through. They were observing. They were being held by another loved one up there. It's okay. It's okay. And a lot of times the first things they say is, but what about my mom? Or what about my spouse? Like you get concerned about them. You feel okay. You feel safe. You're seeing your own parent or your grandparent or whoever passed that would be the closest to you that you would want there really will show for you. Sometimes it's a spiritual figure or an angel. And so that's going on for the spirit. It's okay. You're in the light. They're going to be okay. And you observe yourself. And then I've worked with people who have been in, comas due to whatever accidents, whatever. And the way they explain it is they're 3/4 in the spirit world a lot of times, and 1/4 in here. And they'll go kind of consciously back and forth because the body hasn't given up yet. So that's accident, then that's, slow passings. There's a lot of back and forth too, So the spirit is always okay. It's like when people say, oh, my spirit's tired. I'm like, no, your spirit has so much energy. It's the disconnect from your spirit that's keeping your personality and then your body tired. So I always say that your spirit will be fine, and it will be, you know. Just like when you work with so many people that lose kids, the kids are like, it's okay, it's okay. I'm okay. That doesn't work for a while sometimes in those kind of passings. But eventually you find your way through your own healing and connection to your own spirit. You start to feel that difference. It's like doctor bedside manner. When people pass away, sometimes I feel I'm like, don't worry, they're fine, but I'm like, you got to remember, I remember my grief and nobody could tell me it was okay at the time, you know.
What is your experience after working with so many spirits? Why do such young kids leave their bodies? Like, why do such young spirits, we think the young spirits, young kids leave their bodies so early?
Well, and depending on why, is it an illness? Is it an accident? They're not always making this conscious choice to go. Most of the time, they're not. 99%. I don't think they ever are really making a conscious choice to go. And there's no God, if you will, up there pulling us out either. So there's technology. There's certain reasons we're having more illness in our, food supply, water. I mean, there's a lot of things. And then there's, you know, environmental. So environmental. And then there's some pharmaceuticals. I work a lot with pharmaceutical, what I call induced suicide. And I survived something 38 years ago with that incident of only 3 days where I heard the voices and to take unalive myself. And I was hyperventilating and went to the ER, and that's all transpired in 3 days. And I'm like, I don't feel that way, but I was hearing voices. And right before I heard the voices, my spirit, I saw a hologram of myself walk by. And I went, what was that? And then the voices started. My spirit had left my body. Absolutely. I did not know that at the time. I was 28 trying to figure out life, and my body responded with anxiety, which I didn't even know what anxiety was.
We talk a lot about death. I want to talk now about the messages from our loved ones. What do our loved ones want us to know from the other side that we human often miss?
I think to understand that our spirit, our spiritual nature is very sacred and natural and necessary to be a better human being. When you understand the spiritual nature and what our spirit really encompasses, there's two of us in a way, spirit and human. We're spiritual beings and we're human beings. And it's that relationship and how the foundation of how we're going to relate to every single experience and person in our life. And when we understand that, we live life in a certain way. And your spiritual nature is intuitive, which is a survival mechanism. It isn't just seeing spirit and giving messages, it's our survival mechanism down here, So our spiritual nature is intuitive, it is creative. Our creative energy is what creates abundance for us to survive on this planet, and intuitively to be guided. And then it's the compassion. If you look at a lot of the things that go on in the world, where's the compassion? You hear it on news broadcasts. They had no compassion in their eyes. That's not in our personality or ego. That's in our spirit. It's how we communicate. If we communicate in places of fear and fear of survival, all I can say is turn on the news. We're seeing group consciousness in fear and they're angry. It's all over. The other thing is our coping skills are in our spirit. That's the biggest cause of the mental health crisis. And look at the world. Look at the words mental and health. Mental is mind and heal is in health. Change the vibration of mental health. Because the minute we hear those words, we think something's wrong with them. We have a mind, and that's what will heal us because those are the emotional frequencies downloading. Science. So if spirit is trying, and there's many people that cross never even opening to this. I'll be doing a channeling and someone's father is just making them laugh. And yes, there's tears, but they're laughing because that was his personality. And then he'll say, yeah, I get it now. And they'll say, yeah, he never believed in this stuff. We didn't know if he'd come through. And I'm like, you wake up there, you go, whoa, that is real. I can still communicate with my family. I can still show signs. If we think it's one-sided, we're crazy because they feel too. But they also got that bigger picture now. And they're trying to download that bigger picture for us. Because we're the only ones that can look at the earth and the movie that we're in that way. We're the only ones that can really do that for ourselves. You know, you can't give someone peace as a medium. You can't give that to anyone. You create a sacred space for that to be felt for them. And that's big as a definition. As anyone, an intuitive, you know, anyone doing healing work, you know, a massage therapist is relaxing the body and creating a space for the body to relax. I mean, you know, you could put it into any field of work, and they want us to look at it that way.
Have you ever received messages from spirit that completely changed the way you see God, heaven, human purpose?
I think one of the biggest ones that comes to mind was right after 9/11, and I was well into the work at that time, work, better lack of a better word. And I remember, you know, the incidences, you know, we were going in now and, you know, to try to whatever. And I remember just praying and saying, haven't we learned as a species that war is not the way? Either way, you know, even coming into our country, whatever country, war is not. Haven't we learned as a species? Why haven't we learned God? I referenced it as God. What is going on with us? Why can't we see? Why are we attacking each other over these borders? And it was just like one of those, you know, I had my son was only a year old. You know, what did I, you know, many people feel this way, and I know it. But what happened was I put it out there almost, and I encourage people to do this for their own things. I said it like a conversation, no expectation to get an answer. Really, I was just venting. God, why are we here again? We're in, this is not going to go in, go out. We're in. And I could feel it. My cells hurt. Literally, that's what I felt. And 24 hours later, which is a big, not a big window, a long window to get such a profound moment. But I was doing my dishes, which I've had a lot of experiences doing my dishes, by the way, because first of all, water is a conduit of energy, but usually you're just kind of mindless doing your dishes, you know? You're just doing my dishes. And I heard it's almost like this feeling comes through me, like a wave, and then I'll get this kind of light, gold light feel, like it's like a hush. And I know now, I recognize it, that that's a message coming for me. And so that happened, and I just was washing the dishes, and I'm like, and then I heard the voice, and the voice said, "You have evolved as a species technically, but not spiritually." And at that point, you know, I probably froze. It stopped wiping the dish and went, and I heard it finish the sentence. This is a consequence, not a punishment. And I remember going, oh my God, my thoughts yesterday. They're answering. You're answering me. And I got chills just now. And I went, well, and this is how I talk to spirit. I get that message and I'll never ask why again. And I have not. Global, personal stuff, community stuff, global stuff. I have never wondered why since I've heard those words. But I did say, I understand that, but it doesn't make me feel any better. Kind of, wow. We have evolved technically, but not spiritually, because most people don't understand what is spirit. So, but then I heard that is what Earth is for. Now tears are coming down my eyes, and I'm like, eerie peace. An eerie peace went through me. It was peaceful, but it was eerie. And I went, gotcha. It's not going to happen up there or in the higher, you know, heart aspects of dimension. And, but, you know, it is what it is. And when you think about it, yeah, we've evolved technically, but a lot of our technology, if we lose that it comes from a divine sacred intelligence, look around. When it's used for the higher good, just like channeling, you know, if it's used for the higher good, it brings peace, it brings comfort, it awakens people. And that awakening is how we go through grief and everything else that comes with our experiences down here.
We talked about the world situation. What does spirit want us to know about the current situation in the world? Is it a collective awakening or collective chaos?
It really comes down to that formula that, you know, I've been aware of spiritual teachings for over 30 years now, like understanding things from the higher perspective. I used to feel the darkness or the low frequency consciousness has definitely caught up and become a majority. And there was a day that was not the case 30 years ago. If anything, I think it was the opposite. And that's a little sad and disheartening a lot of it actually. But I don't ever give up. And I know, as long as we can see and bring ourselves to certain perspectives and still see the beauty on this planet, we're okay. But we got to remember that that formula, you have evolved technically, but not spiritually. People are afraid of the word spiritual. That's why I like, demystifying mediumship, demystifying spirituality. You know, when you think about what we're at war about on so many levels of belief systems, God, the universe, finance, I mean, it's primitive and it's sad because there's people who, like teachers like ourselves, we've gone through these awakenings and we've applied them into our life on another level and to put ourselves there to share with others. So we get it and we walk in that zone, but we also walk amongst, what may not have evolved. And that's part of our purpose, obviously, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. So they see the chaos, but they also go, it's almost like when someone asks me, well, is, you know, my grandmother gonna, be okay? And I'm like, you don't ask spirit that. They'll always say everybody's gonna be okay because we're okay over there too, It's not necessarily we're okay over here sometimes, but we can be, but we're always gonna be okay.
World is going to be okay. I
The
love
world's gonna be okay. I love when loved ones say that spontaneously to somebody who's, I don't know, in full blown anxiety because of world conditions, and like their father's saying, "Don't worry, you're gonna be okay." And you know, it's like, oh, I keep asking my dad, "Are we gonna be okay down here?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I like hearing that too. We're gonna be okay because we are okay. It's evolution."
Thank you so much for making this mystical world unmystical. Thank
I
you so
know.
much for working. And I know so many skeptics are out there. They're like, oh my God, what does she talk about? Is this even true? What would you say to those people?
I love my skeptics. Yeah, and I work with a lot of people like, the women usually lead the way and then they'll bring, you know, the husband or, I've worked with many siblings, like a woman who's brought her, 90-year-old dad because mom just passed. And the grief is, so once they begin to experience like me seeing things, there's no way I'd know. And it shouldn't take long, it should only be a couple minutes. And they start to just relax and feel it, and they'll tell you, "I didn't believe in this before I got here, but now, I've had atheists say, I didn't believe in anything when I came to this. Now I believe in something. I still don't know what it is, and it's like not me trying to make them a believer. I'm just connecting them to spirit. And I think that's the spirit energy is just so beautiful and pure that it transforms people, whether that be in a channeling, whether that's in a sound bath or a meditation. And that's why I'm very big on meditation, because mediation between our spirit and ourself, we need moments. Is it in nature? Is it reading something inspiring? Is it journaling, poetry? Is it music? Is it art? It doesn't matter. Just do something to connect to your spirit.
Thank you, Beth, for being here today. Thank you for the amazing interview. If people want to connect with you, how they can find you?
My website, probably the best, innerlightteaching.com. And yeah, I mean, that's really the best way. And all, my contact number and all my information is on the website, innerlightteaching.com.
Thank you so much for being on my podcast today. And everybody who is listening or watching, if this interview inspired you, touched you, moved you, please share it with your friends and family members. We want to help them also connect with their loved ones and receive messages to heal. Thank you so much for being here today. Until next time, be brave, shine your light, because the world needs that love and light inside of you more than ever. I'm sending you lots of love and big hug. Bye for now.